As with manufacturing or logistic processes, errors in administrative processes are improved by eliminating the root cause of those errors. When mapping out a process, the question is bound to come up. Why is this taking so long? Why do we need 4 signatures on this document? The actual causes of problems in the office process usually comes from careless architecture, building and adding more layers or options to existing ones. To identify errors, it is good to use Taguchi's concept of loss. You remember, right? Waste, overload, the unevenness, the 3 horsemen of the lean apocalypse. Remember, root cause search is effective if you involve the right group of people. The group should be multidisciplinary, know the process, and have someone in their ranks who can make decisions. Working with administrative and office processes can be complicated, so let me share my experience and give you a hint where to look for causes of the current state of affairs. Typical causes of the problem in service processes are lack of training, lack of standards, very complicated process, long retention time of information, multitasking, interrupters, rushing, ambiguous information, for example, illegible instructions, poor quality materials, or poor quality photos. If you feel that any of those apply to your work environment, I encourage you to investigate and eliminate the root cause. When it comes to the tools to look for the causes of problems, here's my list. I've divided them according to the difficulty of the task. Simple problems you can try and solve with the following methods. 5 why, factor tree, analysis. More complex problems can be analyzed using the following sequence. Brainstorming to define the cause, then an occurrence matrix to determine the most likely cause, and a Pareto chart to verify those most important causes of problems. If you're not already familiar with these tools, be sure to check out the Basic Problem-Solving Tools course. Once you're working with your team to improve your process, make sure you and your team members have the right mindset. Here are some with ironclad principles I always apply when trying to identify causes of problems. They generally function as team principles and are: do not fall into conclusions. Address more than the symptoms. Select appropriate remedial actions. Design and implement solutions to solve the problems long term. Once the process is defined and the cause of the problems are known, we can move on to the next step, which is designing a good process. And by good, I mean error-proof. When building a new process or improving an existing one, it makes sense to start with the architecture. The architecture of a process is how it will be built, how many alternatives will be allowed for decision points, and how many inputs and outputs it will have, and so on. And from a quality standpoint, the process should be transparent enough to see and eliminate errors before they turn into defects. That's why it's a good idea to use the following strategies. First, avoid errors. By this I mean situations that are already identified as error generators, like forms that must be typed out manually each time. Instead, try and convert them to be filled out electronically, with some data being autofills. Second, avoid passing errors down the value stream, for example, to an internal customer. No one likes to correct work that isn't theirs. If you're unable to eliminate the error at the point of origin, then try to identify it as soon as possible. Third, avoid passing errors to an external customer, a priority in traditional organizations. It is well known that the worst case scenario is the one in which the customer finds your mistake. This generates the highest cost and has the longest lasting consequences. It is good to have some kind of verification mechanism ahead of the external customer. Remember, however, that an inspection is not your first option. It should be your last resort. Okay, now let's consider how to build a good process, a process where there's no room for error. Let me give you some examples of how to deal with errors and even reduce them. First, make the error impossible to do. This is the target stake of poka-yoke, actions. Remember, we're talking about unintentionally making a mistake here. Second, make the error had to make. Third, make the error obvious. Fourth, make the error irrelevant. Preventing errors from being made is generally accomplished by structuring the product or process accordingly. An example? In some web forms, you have to enter all the necessary data to move on. In addition, some of them will still have restrictions in the format, for example, a date field or a zip code field. Making it difficult to make a mistake can be accomplished by educating people on non-standard situations. As it is often the case with operating systems or processes where there are several alternatives, the user gets information about the possibility of error. The problem in this case can be that it's a repetitive process where you have to click yes 100 times a day. This develops some insensitivity and frustration in users, which may lead to attempts to skip the process or circumvent it. Errors that cannot be avoided should be obvious. A good example here are various types of scripts, autocorrect, and dictionaries that help us write correctly. They are a lifesaver for me. However, they can also be a source of many errors and unnecessary additional work. I don't know about you, but I'm not comfortable with overly aggressive dictionaries that replace words. For example, T9 dictionaries in cell phones. Another strategy we can adopt is to design the process or product so that it is flaunt tolerant. Even if an error does occur, it will only be a scratch with no negative effects on the outcome of the ongoing process. Often such actions are implemented in the case of environmental factors such as ambient temperature or time of day and night. They require an in-depth analysis of the process and the relationship that exists between the variability caused by the error and the process result. So how do we ensure the process of these activities? Obviously, by encouraging a pro-quality attitude in the office culture. In companies where optimization is an element of the business strategy, and one of the reasons why they have a competitive advantage on the market, it is easier to implement poka-yoke solutions in office environments. This is worth remembering going forward. So how do you build an organizational culture focused on process and quality improvement in a service company? Take a look at my suggestion. Discuss them with your team. See where you're right now. What are you missing? The most important thing is that you eliminate any hindrances or activities that pose a high risk of maintenance by employees. Provide adequate time for the work to be done. Do not exert unnecessary pressure. Remember that different organizations go through the process of change in different ways. The period of adaptation to change may vary. Provide effective training to your employees. Transfer practical knowledge and engage them in team workshops. Create strong, good processes with your employees. Automate your process to allow you to grow further. To recap, show problems. If there is a problem, solve it right away. Honesty is a virtue. Do not accuse. Remember that problems are opportunities for growth. Inspection is the last choice, not the first. Putting these principles into practice will not be easy or quick, but don't be discouraged. Changing organizational culture takes time, but the positive effects are sure to be felt in the future.